Hi, welcome back. My name is Nick, and here we are revolutionizing news with your non party affiliated host. That is me, and an open platform of discussion. Today we have four political parties joining us. Help us grow by smashing that thumbs up button. Hit the subscribe button now to join the movement. And if you want to participate, put your answers to the topic questions in the comments below. So let's hear from our guests. We're going to start with Rocco. Rocco, the Washington Post had added a lengthy correction to a bombshell report from early January that had said then President Trump told Georgia's top election investigator during a phone call to find the fraud, and he would be a national hero. There was a correction. What was that correction that was just released hours ago? And what does that now mean in March? Rocco?
Yeah, so just for the sake of brevity, I will go ahead and just briefly summarize. They essentially said that Donald Trump had told the investigator in Georgia that they would be a national hero if she were to find the fraud in the election. Whereas what he actually asserted was that she would find dishonesty if she looked at this, and that she had the most important job in the country right now. And what does it mean here in March? In terms of the election, I don't think it really means much. I mean, the election's over. What can we really do about it now? The cat's out of the bag, regardless of what you believe about what happened. I think what it really says more about is the fact that we have a dishonest media who we cannot trust anymore. And it's really unfortunate that institutions like the Washington Post, who have traditionally been considered major vectors of, I want to say truth, but really the media has always been suspect to some degree. But they are more suspect now than they've ever been. And when they're doing things like this, and it's really not the first time that mainstream media has done this kind of thing. I mean, you look back at all of the fake news scandals over the Trump administration, whether it was the Russiagate hoax, whether it was Brett Kavanaugh, Nick Sandmann. I mean, I can go on, and I have on this show before, so I will refrain from doing so. But I'll just wrap up by saying it really speaks to the media and the problems with the dishonesty in the press, and that's what we really have to take from the story and confront.
Austin, does this really play into sensationalism at the particular time when the actual article was written? Do people care when corrections come out? Does this mean anything? Was there dishonesty to begin with? Unpack what you found in this article and this correction.
The correction is untimely. I don't think very many people will actually care about it 7 months after the fact. Um, as a Green Party member and like Jill Stein's social media team during the 2016 election, I know pretty much a lot about Russiagate and what happened around that issue. But it just shows that people are having trouble having faith in our democracy. And the only
Is it having trouble faith in the democracy, or is it now the media institutions themselves? This seems to be a very heavy correction to be making in a way that may shape public opinion. Does that make sense?
Yes, it can be rather skewed, but these issues that we're facing are extremely difficult. And sometimes we don't know until we keep looking. Many news outlets do factor on sensationalism. It's a for-profit business, so they need to make money. So they will run sensationalist headlines. They will do things that are good for business, not good for information. So when this type of news article comes out, they will run it with as little information as possible to get the clicks, to get the likes, to get the engagements on social media and online, to where they can keep their head above water. It's a sad fact, but it's the type of system that we live in.
Kyle, if they had the recording, and what I mean by that is the Washington Post, if they had the recording in January, and now they're putting a correction out to the exact same recording now, was it a different recording? Was it something else, or was this a sensationalized headline? And what does that tell us about the media?
I really can't speak to the prior, but what this says about the media is you shouldn't trust them. The funny thing is that people should assume that the media is trying to sell them something, and they should take everything the media says with a grain of salt. But we do have people that are almost zealots in what they want to believe is true, especially about a political party or ideology, and a lot of times they don't fact check. And this is one of the cases where I think that it has done a little bit of damage to the Trump to Trump's image. And here we are, okay, we'll post a correction, but no one's going to read the correction.
Rez, are you a Wall Street Journal, a Washington Post defendee? Are you, are you the type of person that's going to take them at face value, at their word? And then do you accept apologies?
Yeah. So from what I read from the correction was it went from find me fraud to look for dishonesty at a place where there was no dishonesty to be found. I mean, at the end of the day, like even if I believe, yeah, it was Washington Post who ran that article. Even if they played the recording where Trump talked about looking for dishonesty, and then if you find it, you'll be seen as a hero. It still would have looked bad for Trump. Like, I don't think it would have changed the results because at that time, people were already fed up with the election. Trump was telling his supporters to not trust not place your faith in the election, and that's why there was a lower turnout in Georgia compared to for the Democrats. But with that being said, when it comes to the media at large, I do agree with Austin, with Rocco, with Kyle. The corporate media, especially the television media, they run a profit-based system. And to make profit, they have to run sensationalized headlines. So that is true, which is why alternative media, like shows like your show, Nick, is so important for the future of our country, because we, like, Americans, need to be able to read and watch, and then from variety of sources, and then make an informed decision rather than believe whatever Fox News tells you to believe, or what CNN tells you to believe, or what MSNBC tells you to believe. And hence why, like, I don't pay too much attention to corporate media. I pay more attention to print journalism, because journalists who write do a lot more work rather than corporate media like CNN that just runs sensationalized headlines for the quick clicks.
Rocco, it sounds to me like a lot of us are against sensationalism. I mean, we don't want to slander anybody in any means, right? Nobody ever wanted to slander Donald Trump or Joe Biden. We want the truth. We want exactly what us as consumers, right? As the little people, we want to hear exactly what they said. And it just sounds to me like we're all in agreement that we don't want to be spoon-fed something that's not correct. Is that something that we all agree upon? And what does this article really tell us? And what should we be, taking away from it all?
Well, yeah, I think that what you point out in the premise of your question is correct. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of disagreement on a lot of the points on this. I think that maybe one of the only ones is the question of intent, and maybe that's not even one of it. Maybe some of the other panelists would agree with me on intent. I would respectfully submit that when Austin calls this an untimely correction by the Washington Post, I think that's a good-natured view, and I think it's a good thing to take people at their word generally. So I respect it, but I would respectfully contend that this was very timely on their part. I would contend that his pointing out that they make this correction after anybody will care, I think that's the exact point. I think that they made this correction in March because people will no longer care. They've already made their money off of this story, and they don't have to give that money back now that the story's been exposed as false. So there's not a real punishment to make for the correction if they wait until now. And the benefit of it is that if anybody says that it was false in the future, they can always point back to it, even though there wasn't really too much of a cost. So I think that, if there is some disagreement, it might possibly be on the idea of intent, but that would really be all I would have to say.
Rez, I'll let you respond, and then we'll round out with Austin.
Yeah, the only point where I would push back on is the claim that what Washington Post reported was false. It wasn't false. It was a misquote, yes, but it is a fact that Trump did call the Georgia secretary, and I believe it was the Georgia secretary who recorded the conversation and gave it to the Washington Post, and Trump did ask people to look for, quote unquote, look for dishonesty at a place where there was no dishonesty. So if Trump never made that call, this wouldn't even be a story. But it was Trump who made that call. It was Trump who told his supporters to not put any trust in our election system.
Austin, to your point previously, should they have released this correction within days of the original print article going out?
I believe they should have while the press was hot on it, but I do understand that if they had released it as a few days after, they would have got a lot of heat for it. Now that some time has passed, as time goes by, people tend to forget.
Should they have gotten the heat for it, though?
That is a good question. I have no stake in if they get heat or not, but I do believe that their validity as an organization, as an institution, as a news media would have been severely hindered. And I do believe that they would have contributed into American people's ideology that the news media is not trustworthy. So I do understand why they had delayed it for a little while, because of the current polarization around our news media situation. But I also believe that they, in order to save face and to save a profit, that they had to wait.
Kyle, your last word.
Yeah, I always agree with the Republicans on the Democrats, and I always agree with the Democrats with the on the Republicans. Yeah, so obviously they should have made a correction as soon as they could correct this. This was beat in the head. I mean, this was really pounded out in the headlines. So it would have been. I have, Democrat friends, and this is something that they quoted a lot. Look at this nonsense that we're dealing with. So it would have been nice to get a correction.
Appreciate all of our guests for coming on from around the country. I hope you as a viewer got something out of it. Hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.